So imagine this. The most powerful man on earth gives you a puzzle. If you solve it, you get to live, but if you fail, you and all of your colleagues are executed. Well, that's the real-life setup for a mystery that's over 2,500 years old, straight from the book of Daniel. We're talking about a terrifying dream that a king forgot and a prophecy that people are still arguing about to this day.
Okay, so here's the scene. King Nebuchadnezzar of Babylon has this dream, right? And it shakes into his core. But when he wakes up, poof, it's gone. He can't remember a thing. So he calls in his team of wise men and gives them a totally impossible task. Don't just tell me what my dream means. First, you have to tell me what I actually dreamt. And they're just like, whoa, hold on, no one on earth can do that. As you can guess, the king did not like that answer. He flies into a rage and orders every last one of them to be put to death.
But right as that terrible order is going out, a young man named Daniel steps onto the scene. He basically tells the king, hey, just give me a little time, I can solve this for you. And that night, the source tells us, the whole mystery, the dream, and what it meant was revealed to Daniel in a vision from God.
So Daniel goes before the king and starts describing this dream he couldn't possibly know. He says, "O king, in your vision you saw an enormous, dazzling statue, and this thing was terrifying." He lays it all out. Its head was made of pure gold. Its chest and arms were silver. The belly and thighs, pure bronze. Then it had these powerful legs of iron. And finally, its feet, they were this bizarre, weak mixture of iron and clay.
But that's not even the wildest part. While the king is watching this statue in his dream, a massive rock, one that wasn't cut out by human hands, comes flying out of nowhere, and it smashes right into the statue's weakest point, those feet of iron and clay. The impact is just catastrophic. The whole statue, the gold, the silver, the bronze, the iron, it all shatters into tiny pieces and becomes like dust, and the wind just sweeps it all away like it was never even there. The king is absolutely floored. Daniel nailed it. That was his dream exactly. But, revealing the dream was only the first half of this life or death puzzle. Now for the really fascinating part. What in the world did this vision of a giant metal man and a flying rock actually mean?
Well, Daniel explains that the statue is basically a timeline of history. Each one of those metals represents a different world power, a different kingdom that will rise and rule. And he looks right at Nebuchadnezzar and says, "You, O king, you are that head of gold." So the dream is a blueprint for the future. 4 great earthly empires, one after the other, that will all be completely wiped out and replaced by a final divine kingdom. That's the rock, a kingdom set up by God himself that will last forever. And this is the absolute crux of the issue. While Daniel gives this incredible blueprint, he only names kingdom number 1, Babylon. And that has left historians and theologians with a giant, 2,500-year-old puzzle. Who were the other 3 kingdoms? Who is the silver, the bronze, and the iron? People have been debating that for centuries. All right, so let's dive into the first major school of thought. It's known as the critical view. And it argues that this whole prophecy isn't about some far-off future, but that it was actually fulfilled a long, long time ago, back in the 2nd century BC.
So according to this theory, the big climax of the dream is the reign of this really nasty Greek king named Antiochus Epiphanes. And that rock that smashes the statue, well, that's seen as the Maccabean Revolt, a successful Jewish uprising that kicked him out. To make this work, the kingdoms are identified as Babylon, then a Median Empire, then Persia, and finally Greece. The fragile feet of iron and clay get interpreted as the failed political marriages between rival Greek dynasties that were trying to ally with each other. But, and this is a big but, this theory runs into a major historical roadblock, one that our source material points out pretty directly. To make the timeline fit, it has to squeeze in a separate, independent Median kingdom between Babylon and Persia. The problem is, modern history shows us that didn't happen. The source actually calls this a historical blunder, which, is a pretty serious knock against this whole interpretation. That historical hiccup with the Median kingdom is a big reason why many people turn to the second major theory, what's called the First Advent view. And this one ties the prophecy's climax directly to the life of Jesus. This interpretation sees the kingdoms as Babylon, then the combined Medo-Persian Empire, followed by the Greek Empire of Alexander the Great, and finally the colossal Roman Empire. In this view, the rock cut without hands is Jesus himself. The smashing of the statue represents the arrival of God's spiritual kingdom on earth, which of course began when Christ was born, right in the middle of the Roman Empire's reign. Okay, now for our third and final major theory, the Second Advent view.
It actually agrees with the sequence of kingdoms from the last one, but, and this is key, it sees the prophecy's grand finale as something that is still in our future.
So this view also lines up the kingdoms as Babylon, Medo-Persia, Greece, and Rome. But it says the rock smashing the statue isn't about Christ's first coming, it's about his future second coming. The legs of iron represent the ancient Roman Empire, for sure, but the feet of iron and clay? That's seen as a future, revived version of that same empire, some kind of coalition of strong and weak nations that will be on the world stage right before Christ returns to set up his physical, eternal kingdom on earth. This slide is so helpful because it just lays it all out, side by side. You can really see where everyone agrees and where they split. Look, everybody's on board with the head of gold being Babylon, no debate there. But then you hit the silver, and boom, the critical view needs that disputed Median Empire, while the other two combine it with Persia. And then the biggest split of all is at the end. What is the fourth kingdom? And more importantly, what is the rock? Is it a past event or is it something still to come? But look, these other views face some really tough questions of their own. For the first Advent folks, the question is, if Christ's arrival was the big smashing moment, then why did the Roman Empire, the iron legs, stick around for another 400 years? The dream says the statue gets completely obliterated. And for the second Advent view, critics ask, really? A 2,000-plus year gap between the legs and the feet of the same kingdom? Doesn't that feel a little forced?
So that brings us back to the ultimate question. We've just walked through three very different, very compelling theories. Each one seems to solve part of the puzzle, but each one also creates new head-scratchers. So which one is it? Which one finally cracks this ancient code?
Well, after all that, which theory is the right one? According to our source material, the answer might just be that none of them are the full picture, at least not on their own. The author suggests that to really solve the mystery of this dream, you can't just look at it by itself. You have to bring in another piece of evidence, a parallel vision that was given to Daniel himself a few years later. And that's where the source material leaves us, with this final, really provocative question. What if the key to unlocking King Nebuchadnezzar's dream of the statue isn't actually in the dream itself? What if it's hidden inside another, even more mysterious prophecy? It's a puzzle inside a puzzle, and it's what keeps this ancient mystery so captivating even today.